Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Doug Formative. Today I'm going to show you how you can do this cloned tile effect in Inkscape. So if you want to use text, or if you want to just use a shape that you can clone over the top of, either way is fine. This tutorial will work as long as you follow the steps in the exact same order that I'm doing it. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate the text that you saw in the thumbnail. So I'm going to grab my text tool and I'm just going to type out the name Doug Formative. And now I'm going to grab my selector tool, hold Control, click, and then just drag this out to make it a little bit larger just so we can see what we're doing here. And I'm going to leave the font the same as it is, which is Century Gothic. But one of my favorite fonts, just for future reference, is Century Gothic. You know, it's just a really clean, very modern looking font. But I want to use something that's more bold, so I'm going to go back to the font that I had before. So I'm just going to hit Control Z on the keyboard to go back to that other font. And holding Control, I just scroll up on the mouse wheel so you can zoom in and we can see what we're doing. And then if you click in on the mouse wheel, you can drag this around and make sure that you have whatever you're trying to focus on in the middle of the screen. Alright, now the next step, with the text selected, we're going to go to Path, Object to Path, Object, Ungroup, then Path, Union. And that way Inkscape recognizes this as one complete object. Now the next step is you want to decide what shape you want to clone over the top of your text or shape or whatever you want to use for this. I'm just going to use a circle. So I'm going to grab my circles and ellipses tool. I'm going to hold Control and then just click and drag out a circle shape. But unfortunately white was selected, so let me change the color to black. Grab my selector tool, I'm gonna delete that, and then I'm gonna start over. So let's grab our circles tool, hold Control, click, and drag out at a 45-degree angle to make sure that we have a perfect circle. And you want it to be pretty small, so that's pretty good right there. Now the next step is I want to grab my rectangle tool. I'm gonna just click and drag out a rectangle shape. Then I'm gonna grab my selector tool, click on the text that we have, and then I'm gonna hold Control and hit C. And what that does is copies the size of the text to the clipboard. Now with the rectangle selected, I'm gonna go to Edit, Paste Size, and paste size, and that makes the rectangle the same exact size as the text. So with that selected, I'm going to change the color to white, hold Shift, click on the text, and then go over here to my Align and Distribute menu. I want to center it on the vertical then horizontal axis. Now I want to just click off to the side, click that rectangle again. Even though you can't see it, you have the you know the general area where it's at, and then click the lower selection to the bottom. Now what we want to do is select our little circle shape here, or whatever shape you're using. Go to Edit, Clone, Create Tiled Clones. And now in this menu over here, normally it will default to symmetry. You want to go over here to the Trace tab, and then under the first column here you want to have this box selected, trace the drawing under the clone's sprayed item, and color. You want color selected here. Under tab number 2 you want both of those set to 0, and then under number 3 you want everything unchecked except for size. And then the next section, apply to tiled clones. It should normally default to rows/columns. You want to check the circle that says width and height. And now what you want to do is go ahead and select your text again And then up here in your toolbar here, you want to triple click on the width and then hold Control and hit C to copy the width. And then come back over here, and under the width, you want to triple click there, hold Control and hit V to paste the width. And now you want to come back up here to height, triple click, Control C to copy that, come back over here, triple click, and then Control V to paste the height. And now come back over here, deselect everything, and now select your little shape over here, hold Shift, click on your text tool, and then under the Align and Distribute menu, you want to align the left edges and then top edges. Click to deselect everything, and then if you hold Control and then scroll up on your mouse wheel, you can click on that circle shape. And now with that circle shape selected, you can go ahead and click the button that says Create. And depending on how fast your computer is, it may take a while for it to do the cloning process. If it pops up on the top of your screen where it says not responding, just let it go, let it do its thing, and eventually it will catch up, because it takes a bit of a process in order to complete this whole thing. So just let it go, and eventually it will finish the process. And now it has that original circle selected still, and what you can do is just hit delete on your keyboard, and it may take a minute, but it will eventually delete that original circle shape. And now what you can do is click and just drag over the entire thing. And now go to your fill and stroke menu, bring down the opacity about halfway. And because there's a lot going on, it may take a minute. All these processes are going to take a little bit longer than normal, just because there's so many shapes that Inkscape is working with at this point. So let it do its thing, and now just go ahead and click off to the side to deselect. And what you want to do is scroll in, click on the shape of the original text, and then hit delete on the keyboard. And then click on any of the empty spaces between the letters to select that white rectangle that's underneath the text, and hit delete on that. And now what you want to do is click and drag over the entire thing, go to Path, Union, and that's going to take a minute for it to complete also. But then once it's complete, what it allows you to do is treat this as a solid object. So you can make it whatever color you want. You can use a gradient if you want to, like you saw in the thumbnail. And as soon as this completes, I'll show you exactly how to do that. And like I said before, just be patient. It looks like it's frozen up, but eventually it will work, just depending on your computer. Just let it do its thing, and don't go around closing the program or anything like that. It will work. Alright, cool. So it finally finished creating a union with all these shapes. And the reason it takes so long is because there's so many individual objects that it has to work with. So it is a bit of a process. But now Inkscape will recognize this as one entire shape, and it won't take as long to complete any additional processes that we're going to do in this tutorial. So in order to recreate the gradient that I did in the thumbnail for this video, with this selected, we're going to go ahead and select linear gradient. And now we're going to come over here, select our gradient tool, grab the square node over here, and just click and drag that to the bottom. And it doesn't really matter where, just as close to the bottom of the text is good. And now you want to hold Control, click and drag the other node, and then bring it over, and then just drag it to the point where it's completely vertical compared to the other node. And now we're going to hold your cursor to about halfway, and then you'll see that little plus sign next to your cursor. Double click on the gradient line, and now we have 3 gradient points that we can work with. Now for this tutorial I did on the bottom I did a red, so with that node selected we're going to come down here, click on red, go to the middle, and we're going to use this orange color right here, the FF6600, and then on the top node we're going to select black. And now we're going to go to our selector tool and just click off of this whole text, and now we're going to click and drag over the whole thing. And then if you notice under the fill and stroke menu, the opacity is still halfway, so we want to click and drag over to the right so it's at 100% opacity, and that way you can see the gradient effect fully taking shape in this. And that is it. And like I said before, you can do this with any shape that you decide to work with, as long as you've converted it to a path. And you know, you could do star shapes, you can do polygons, you know, just whatever you want to use for your own creativity is fine. But that is it. I hope you guys found this informative or Doug-formative, and I will see you in my next video. Take care. If you're enjoying my videos, don't forget to subscribe right here. Also, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook so you can share it with your friends. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.